Mark, great to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Can you start out by telling our audience a little bit about what you do at Digitas?
Sure. So I actually run brand content for the Chicago office. So what that really includes is brand content development as well as brand content distribution.
So you are the perfect person to ask this next question. When it comes to branded video, I was at an agency for many years, and clients are always saying, "Can I have a viral video, please?" And that's always very elusive at best. So, what are some of the expectations and goals around branded video from you and your clients?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I think a while ago it was all about post and hope, right? This idea that if you build it, they will come.
Post and hope.
Yes, yeah, post and hope. And so that's transformed, I think, to now, which is where it's really all about sort of using data to be strategic in terms of how you're reaching people in a contextual way, right? And where I think we're going to go is actually audience strategy. And so what I mean by that is actually understanding and working with partners to understand sort of what their audiences are doing, what is their state of mind past what the contextual relevance of the actual site entails, to actually create content with that in mind instead of just creating the content and then figuring out how to distribute it.
And can you talk a little bit more about some of the paid models for distributing branded video?
Sure. So there's a lot of different tools sort of in the toolkit when it comes to distributing content. You've got sort of your mass awareness, which is more pre-roll related things. You have native advertising, which I know we're talking a lot about today, as well as sort of other tools of display, et cetera.
So you brought up native.
Yes, I did.
So I have to ask you, what does native advertising mean to you and to your clients?
So for me, it means understanding exactly not only where our content is being served, but also the mindset of the consumer. And so I think native is really on the rise. And I think one of the reasons it's on the rise is that people are sort of getting sick of being sort of completely disrupted in this space, and it's more about bringing them utility. But at the same time, it's also about the rise in mobile. If you look at sort of mobile increases over the past couple of years, there's not enough actual space on the mobile page to actually serve banner ads, right? People don't want to be disrupted in that space specifically. And so content really becomes the new ad unit in mobile, right? So native to me, again, is sort of not only about the where, but also the mindset. And so what we're doing at Digitas is we're partnering with a lot of publishers to actually understand throughout the pre-production, production, and post-production process to actually create that content and then distribute it on their site so we know exactly who we're reaching as well as exactly sort of what they want to consume.
I see. So it's about partnering with the publishers a little bit more to produce the kind of creative for the campaigns you want to run natively.
Yeah, and we're driving a lot of that creative, but just the fact that we're consulting throughout that process is really important to us. And so one example that I wanted to bring up is we actually just launched the first collaboration with the social viral publisher Upworthy. And so what that entailed was actually us working with them throughout the creative development process to understand what the consumer wants, what's that duration of content that they want, what is the emotion that they want, what is that type, like what are some sort of tricks and tactics that are going to help us to reach that consumer in a meaningful way so that they'll engage with our content, which is our ultimate goal, right?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a lot of discussion about big data, targeted video advertising, and programmatic. So how do you see the effective delivery of video advertising via programmatic, especially when it comes to native video?
So I think there's absolutely a time and a place for using I guess what I'll call sort of scalable native via programmatic. And I think it's important to understand the types of content that you would utilize for that. But I also think it's just as important to understand that if you were to work with a number of partners and create something at scale but have some form of actual control over it, that in itself is also important. So I think, again, sort of tools in toolbox. You've got more of a mass awareness play for something that's video content. I think that's where native programmatic at scale can help. But then I think there's also an understanding of like, okay, what's her or his what's our consumer's mindset, and partnering with publishers in a way that makes sense to then deliver that content.
So for all of our buyers watching, you're saying that native video at scale via programmatic is not an oxymoron.
I'm saying that it is somewhat of an oxymoron, but I think there's a time and a place. I think there is levels of, if you're talking about awareness and you're talking about sort of pre-roll, right, and you want something that's a little bit more engaging, you sort of understand contextually right time and right place, there's absolutely meaningful ways to utilize native, and there's a deeper sort of native thing that you can do with a little bit more control, but obviously sort of less scalable.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about analytics around branded video. Are you and your clients comfortable with the attribution model right now?
So yes and no. And so what I mean by that is, yes, I think we're doing a great job of understanding when we put it into our own channels and we distribute it out that way. I think we have a pretty good understanding in real time of what's going on. We can test and optimize. We have a lot of the different sort of analytics that we feel are necessary to make the best decisions. I think when you talk about, here's sort of the conundrum, when you talk about things that are not living on your immediate sites and aren't being immediately promoted by you, but are being promoted by others, there are certain issues there. And so how we've sort of come around that is we've actually have a proprietary relationship. Digitas LBi has a proprietary relationship with SimpleReach, where we can actually have tags on certain sites that actually let us know in real time what's going on with any of our brand content video, from everything from shares, likes, completion rates, what's working and what's not, what headlines and what testing opportunities there are, what's working and what's not, and that's really helped us to develop real-time understanding of like how our brand content campaigns are doing.
That's great. That sounds like a real competitive advantage for you and your clients.
Yeah, and the other great thing about it is it actually can tell you, okay, so if I have a certain competitive set, if I'm working on Whirlpool, I can look at how other home appliance brand content is doing comparatively to how my brand content is doing, and so that's letting me know, I can tell a client X amount of success metrics, but if I can let them know, hey, here's how we're doing comparatively, categorically, and then also just in brand content in general, that puts a lot more understanding and context into how great these programs are performing.